You're sitting down with me today, Dr. John, and I say, Kari, I'm looking at bringing AI into my practice. What do I need to know?
The big one, Dr. John, you're ultimately responsible. So you need to have eyes on everything that this generates and make sure it's accurate.
I'm Jon Kec, and welcome to Chiropractical. Welcome back to Chiropractical, the podcast that helps you be better at what you do, new ideas and new tools. I'm your host, Jon Kec, and although it may sound like it sometimes, I am not AI generated. Here at Chiropractical, we aim to educate, inspire, and inform chiropractors by sharing expert insights, personal stories, and the latest research in the field of chiropractic. We've heard stories from DCs about how they're utilizing AI at their practice, from analyzing patient data in a matter of seconds to identifying patterns and developing personalized treatment plans. If it's so easy and effective, why haven't you started using it in practice yet? Today, we'll be speaking with Dr. Ray Foxworth, president and founder of ChiroHealth USA, who's also helped create a chiro-specific AI tool. After that, we'll also hear from an attorney, Kari Hershey, on what to be aware of legally if you're bringing AI into the office. Joining us first on Chiropractical today, Dr. Ray Foxworth. Doc, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with the audience.
I think there's a lot of talk in the news. We know AI is out there. We know it can be used in a bunch of situations. But how should chiropractors use AI in their practice?
I would say cautiously.
Okay.
And the reason for that is, AI is not new. It's been around for a long time. It's just finally gotten to the point where it's available to the average person, and certainly available in chiropractic. And I think I would recommend that people take baby steps with it, meaning don't try to use Chiro AI or any AI platform for, completely trying to handle all of your notes and your documentation and things of that nature.
Okay.
Take baby steps with it.
Sure.
You use it for, creating social media posts, blogs, anything that you want to communicate to patients about. There's nothing more intimidating than a blank piece of paper when you're trying to communicate with patients, whether it be through emails or whatever media you use. And so literally with a few prompts, a few questions, I can have AI write me 10 social media posts about back pain and the benefits of chiropractic for kids or for back pain. A lot of administrative tasks, a lot of creative tasks can certainly be addressed by AI.
Sure. So you can almost build out an entire marketing campaign with, you said, just a few simple prompts.
You actually can. And I have, in our company, we have some training videos. And so I took those training videos one day when I was just playing around with it ourselves, and we were looking at launching a Chiro AI platform. And I asked it to take one of those videos and convert it to a voice that would appeal to women. And then I asked it to convert it to a voice that would appeal to men,
Okay.
and then to women with children, and then women who are concerned about healthcare costs. And it literally was able to take that video or that content that I had put in, and it completely rewrote it. And then I think that the thing about the marketing piece is, I can tell people that I treat back pain, but the way that I describe that really needs to be different, more targeted. If I am talking to the healthcare decision maker, which is typically the wife, the mother in the family,
Okay.
or if I know that historically the men are more concerned about the money and the cost, I can have it write the same type of content, but to be able to address that.
Okay.
So you really can target your marketing depending on the audience that it's going to, which is phenomenal. You're not starting from scratch every time you try to generate, some communication.
So we're talking small tweaks at that point, right? Changing a couple of words here, changing delivery styles, but not having to actually go in and do that yourself, relying on that AI perspective, so to say.
Yeah. And one of the things that's neat about it, I was just playing with it just a few minutes ago, and I asked it to write me 5 social media posts about the benefits of chiropractic and the cost effectiveness. Well, I didn't like the way a few of them sounded. So you just tell it, rewrite this. And it literally keeps rewriting it with minor changes, nuances, to where you get it to the point that you like it.
Okay. And that's one of the big things I've heard is that I think people that have dabbled with AI and not been happy, right? They haven't really taken the time to kind of coach it or to teach it, to talk like them, to come from their perspective or to refine the perspectives like you've kind of explained. So would you say that's a relatively, I don't want to say easy, quick process to kind of make those changes? Does it typically take a lot of tinkering? What's that usually look like?
I think the thing to keep in mind is to understand that it is a process and
Okay.
not an event. And because the more you use it, becomes accustomed to what you're interested in, how you want to communicate. So the more you feed it, the more accurate it's going to get.
Okay.
And there's a ton of information out there, but the problem was it was so very broad. So
Sure.
one of the things that we did to educate the system, and any chiropractor can do this in their practice, is we literally or were able to upload what we consider trusted resources.
Okay.
So it might have been articles from NCMIC. It might have been articles from some of our other trusted partners, from some of our billing and coding experts that we use, literally tapping into CMS, which is Medicare, their rules and regulations.
Okay.
So, we thought what we need is AI, but with a minor in chiropractic. And there just
Sure.
really wasn't anything out there like that.
What about where things really come together with a patient? How accurate or how useful is it in something like diagnosis or care planning?
I think there is enough information out there on the internet regarding clinical guidelines, what's called best practice guidelines. And so if a doctor, has a patient who's got a patient with a L4-5 radiculopathy, and you're wondering, what is really the best, most effective protocol for someone that's suffering from that, you can absolutely give me the best practices or treatment protocols for sciatica in a male who is 60 to 65 years old, who's an amputee. I mean, you can color that
Needed all
picture. I think
information.
that's what people need to understand. You really got to, when we watch a football game, you got the guy who's calling the guy who's just talking about the plays, and then you got the color analyst.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really important that you provide it the color, if you will,
Okay.
to get more specific or to get the most accurate response that you're looking for.
Okay.
It will never take the place of a clinician, but I think it will absolutely help you stay abreast of the latest in research, the latest in protocols, the latest in evidence-based care and value-based care. So from that perspective, I think it can absolutely help. It can also look at what are the best treatment protocols, length of time, duration, depth of care. When is it most appropriate to start exercises? Just basic things. So there are a ton of ways of doing that, and I'm really pleased to see this. There are several software companies out there that are having AI built into their EHR, their electronic
Platforms.
health record. So as you're inputting the patient demographics and you're inputting their diagnosis, it literally can tell you what the best treatment protocols are based on the input that you've had. And then
Okay.
some of the softwares out there literally are able to aggregate data from all the people that are using that particular software. And so if I found out that, wow, it's taken me 6 weeks to treat this given condition, but John's getting them better in 3 weeks, I want to know what you're doing that's different.
Absolutely.
It actually can help you become a better chiropractor
Okay.
by not just relying on your own clinical experience, but imagine being able to tap into the brain trust, if you will, or the outcomes of 1,000 different
Everyone.
practices. You can learn a
Sure.
lot from that.
So it's almost you're teaching AI to improve it now with at least the side hope that it's going to help teach you in the future as well, right? You refine its process, it refines yours.
It will give you good guidance.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
just elevates your practice.
Cautions, limitations of AI. What should people be aware of on the lookout for as they consider implementation?
A lot of people don't realize it, but healthcare is the second most regulated entity, only behind the environment. And so we've got HIPAA, we've got privacy laws, we got every kind of rule and regulation under the sun. And the biggest one we have to be concerned about with Chiro AI is inputting specific patient information, what's called PHI,
Okay.
their private health information. So as long as you're using it just for taking data that's not patient specific, I think you're fine. I think probably one of the biggest downfalls, and this isn't my opinion, this is what the research is showing out there. There are some of the top transcription or AI documentation platforms out there. One of the most common one is, or most well-known, is called Whisper. Well, Whisper is created by a huge company, and the intent was have it playing in the background, listening to the doctor's conversation, and then creating a clinical note. So we're not having to write everything. The problem is Whisper, which is built, millions and millions of dollars behind that platform, it has hallucinations. It just makes stuff up. And
Okay.
sometimes it makes up inappropriate stuff, things that I'm serious. I mean, you read the articles out there about Whisper, which is supposedly one of the top of the line programs used by hospitals, and it literally will insert sentences that were never said.
Huh.
It will use phrases that, like I said, sometimes are clinically inappropriate. They actually took that platform outside of healthcare and had it available for 8 public hearings, and 8 out of the 10 public hearings had significant errors in it. So
Okay.
I don't think AI is there yet,
Sure.
but I think it will be in time, but nothing is going to take the place of these 2 eyeballs and this
Absolutely.
brain when
Absolutely.
you're looking over that. So look at it as a time saver, not a replacement of a doctor or of a scribe, as we call them, that we have in our office, helping keep our notes. That's the main thing, is don't use it for your clinical documentation until it has gotten to that point,
Okay.
and then make doggone sure that you're not uploading, inputting patient-specific information, anything that is identifiable to a specific patient.
Well, when we revisit this conversation in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, what are we going to be talking about that's different? Where do you see this whole AI trend going?
I think it will help all the doctors become much, much more efficient. I think it will eliminate a lot of repetitive tasks. If you're a new practitioner coming into practice, it's like, where do I even begin? I did this just a few minutes before we jumped on. I said, write me a training outline for a chiropractic assistant who works in therapy. Write me a training outline for someone who works at the front desk, and do it on a calendar basis of what week we need to
Sure.
cover this. And so, just things like that, even for a new doctor, or quite frankly, for anybody in practice, if you want to document your processes, which is really critical in being able to scale any practice,
Absolutely.
you got to have proven processes and procedures. Well, nothing worse than, like I said, the blank
The
piece
blank
of
sheet.
paper.
Sure.
"Oh, I got to write a manual." No, you don't. You ask AI to give you an outline of the manual, and then you go in and you customize it to fit your practice.
I think, like you mentioned, it's a great resource. You just need to understand where it's at now. How does it fit your practice? What can you implement, but also have an eye toward the future and helping kind of, like we said, grow it for everybody.
Yep, no doubt.
Well, Dr. Foxworth, I very, very much appreciate the time, the education today. Wonderful talking with you. And I'm sure, like I mentioned, we'll be doing this again in the future, probably sooner than later.
Sounds great. Thanks for the opportunity.
Joining us next, Kari Hershey. She's a healthcare lawyer who represents professionals and entities in complex litigations and appeals, including professional liability defense, regulatory defense, and other business matters. She practices at Hershey, Decker, and Drake, and has regularly represented chiropractors for over 2 decades. She's a member of the National Association of Chiropractic Attorneys and provides counsel to the Colorado Chiropractic Association, as well as its members.
AI, in my mind, has evolved much like electronic health records have
Okay.
evolved. So doctors used to all be on paper charts with travel cards, and the advent of electronic health records was exceptional for doctors because it was time saving. They have built-in algorithms that can flag problems. But as all doctors who've worked with electronic health records can probably attest, the records have built-in problems in that they sometimes pull information forward that might not be currently accurate.
Okay.
There's some repetitive notes, things like that. And AI has those same types of potential pitfalls.
So it kind of
Yeah.
has a mind of its own in some situations, we'll say.
Yeah, even more so than the electronic health record, because that is programmed more specifically. AI is programmed to learn. And
Mhm.
so it learns as it goes. If it learns wrong, that problem becomes perpetuated. We recommend that doctors who are using AI in their practice incorporate that into a consent form,
Sure.
um, their general consent, particularly if you're using what we call ambient AI, which is AI that listens in the room and then helps generate the note.
Okay.
The the great part about that is doctors can be focused on their patient and their dialogue with your patient, and they don't have to be worried about being in front of an electronic health record and taking notes as they're interacting with the patient.
Okay.
But if you are using ambient AI to record the visit, just like other types of recordings, you want to have your patient's consent. So you want to
Okay.
put that in your consent form.
So ambient AI, that's a new one for me. I've never heard of it at least phrased that way before. Is that different than just traditional recording? Is the AI generating other parts of the note, or is it just kind of a scribe at that point?
Dr. Foxworth referred to the Whisper program,
Mhm.
and there's several other programs out there. Dragon, people have used Dragon software in medical
Sure.
for a long time, but now it's evolved where it's essentially a recording device in the room that reports the entire session and
Okay.
generates a draft clinical note.
Okay.
Now, ultimately, the doctor is responsible for what ends up in the note. So
Absolutely.
that, in my mind, is one of the biggest areas of liability.
Understanding that although AI is a tool, it's not kind of like Dr. Foxworth reference. It's not there to replace you, and in both a good way. I don't want to say a bad way, but definitely in a good way, right? It's not here to make chiropractors obsolete, but you do have to be cognizant and aware that you are still the provider, right?
Absolutely. And as you interact with the technology, you have an obligation to correct it when it's wrong,
Sure.
right? So if the technology picks up on something, it doesn't appreciate the nuance in chiropractic education, you as the provider using that technology needs to make sure it essentially learns the correct
Gotcha.
information so it doesn't repeat the mistake.
Okay.
The other thing I think that Dr. Foxworth touched on in his discussion is protected health information, and when
Mhm.
you're dealing with protected health information. And in that regard, I think it's important that providers who do use AI to record patient visits or to generate patient notes, it can be highly efficient, but you also have to make sure that you're addressing privacy
Okay.
concerns. So if you have an AI vendor who has an ambient product that is collecting patient information to generate in the know, you should have a business associate agreement consistent with HIPAA uh,
Okay.
with with that vendor. Yeah, you want to
Okay.
make sure that they have responsibilities to keep patient information safe.
And outside of the business associate agreement, maybe as people are looking at options, considering AI or EHRs in a very broad sense, how, as a medical provider, do you ask questions to make sure that you understand where is information being stored, who can access it, how is it accessed, to ensure you are complying with HIPAA regulations?
Sure. I think the first one is you want to look for a vendor that works in the healthcare space,
Okay.
because those vendors will know and understand that they have to have protection in place. So
Okay.
just like there are electronic record systems, some of those are specifically designed for healthcare providers and are certified as HIPAA compliant. So that's
Okay.
one of the first questions that a doctor wants to ask. If they're looking at AI that will be interacting with patient data. You want to ask, is it a HIPAA compliant product?
Okay.
And
Okay.
so that agreement would have to be in place. Most doctors have a template agreement that they use so that their agreement is consistent with all of their vendors. I liken it to some lessons learned from the transition to electronic health records. In the transition to electronic health records, not a lot of attention was paid up front to who owns this data. What happens if I decide to switch electronic health record services? Can I get my data back?
Okay.
In the AI scenario, what we have generally advised is that your notes, the final notes that the doctor has reviewed and then signed off on and approved, that is the patient record. And
Okay.
then the ultimate data that's the recording, there can be certain legal uses for that, but there also needs to be restrictions on that.
Now, with that, as you do input data in, Dr. Foxworth kind of referenced using broad terminology, 55-year-old male with lower back pain presents, and keeping it like that. Is there any risk in that being tracked back to a specific patient somehow? Like, could somebody potentially say, you fed my data into AI?
So if you have the AI technology that is helping you, serving in the role of a scribe or to record the visit and generate a draft note that the doctor uses, I think the note becomes the record, the final
Okay.
note becomes the record. And ideally, you have an arrangement with the AI company that, yes, you can use that for a certain period of time to
Okay.
learn, but it's on a regular destruction cycle.
Okay.
So that happens with a lot of recordings in doctors' offices. So some doctors have security feeds that show their lobby or, the in and out, the outside of their clinic, things like that. And those are on a cycle where they are destroyed after a certain period of time. And
Okay.
that minimize the risk.
Have you, in your experience, seen any kind of malpractice type accusations, complaints to the board around utilization of AI, improper care planning, things like that?
We haven't seen any cases quite yet. I
Okay.
think we're still on the horizon of
Sure.
providers using the AI, but I expect them to come. And the reason I expect them to come is there are several people researching right now how to use AI to scan voluminous medical records and identify problems to alert a patient that they may have had a problem in their medical care,
Okay.
which then would alert the patient to go see a lawyer, and then would potentially lead to legal issues. So doctors could take their records of patient and use the AI to feed the information into the AI and ask the AI to identify potential areas where there should be follow-up.
Really quick, 1, 2, 3 points. You're sitting down with me today, Dr. John, and I say, Kari, I'm looking at bringing AI into my practice. What do I need to know?
Transparency with patients and consent, I think, is number one. Number two is business associate agreement with the AI provider so that you can protect patient information. And the big one, Dr. John, you're ultimately responsible. So you need to have eyes on everything that this generates and make sure it's accurate.
Got it. My butt's on the line. Understand. Well, I very much appreciate the conversation today. Thank you for giving us kind of all the perspectives or helping us get all the perspectives on AI. Just like I said to Dr. Foxworth, I have a feeling we'll probably be having this conversation again sooner rather than later. So look forward to talking with you again.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Again, thank you to both of our guests, Dr. Ray Foxworth and Kari Hershey, for joining us here today. As you've heard, AI and chat GPT type programs can be very beneficial in your practice, but with AI constantly evolving, it wouldn't shock me that we have this conversation again in the not so distant future. On the next episode of Chiropractical, we're going to dive into the 5 most important things to create patience from life. What you do at the beginning actually does matter. So make sure you subscribe so you'll hear that episode as soon as it drops. Did you know you can also watch Chiropractical? Head over to our YouTube channel, search NCMIC for the latest episode, as well as all of our prior episodes. If you want to reach us here at Chiropractical, you can always email us at askncmic@ncmic.com. And again, thanks for joining us and letting me be a part of your day. We appreciate you listening. I'm Jon Kec, and this has been Chiropractical.